Hello, my spooky bitches. How are we all doing today? I'm sorry it has been so long between this episode and the first episode, but we've had half term, bank holidays, my little boy's birthday. It's just been crazy. So from now on, these episodes will air every single Friday here on YouTube, and possibly there may be a podcast coming soon, but we will get to that at a later time. So for today's episode, I really wanted to talk about Borley Rectory. Now, this really kind of piqued my interest because it's not actually that far from where I grew up. So this takes place in Borley in Essex, and I'm going to read you what Wikipedia has to say about it and then add in some of my own thoughts and my own and other little trinkets that I've kind of picked up from different people who I have read and watched in my research for this evidence. So Wikipedia says, and I will link this page down below so you can go there and you can link off to different resources and stuff from there. So Borley Rectory was a house famous for being described as the most haunted house in England. Now that was a bit, I'm sure I said that last week as well with 30 East Drive, but there seems to be a common theme about surrounding haunted houses. One being that they all say they're the most haunted house in England, and two is that sources have been discredited after the event. So with 30 East Drive that I spoke about last week, the family actually admitted that they had fabricated or over enhanced some of the events that had happened. Once the media start to get involved, once they realise that they can maybe earn money off of selling stories or selling information or offering tours of the place, as soon as the media gets involved, the stories seem to become more elaborate. And that's not just with these two, that's with quite a few different haunted houses and happenings that have happened around the UK that I've researched. But anyway, back to Wikipedia. Borley Rectory was a house famous for being described as the most haunted house in England by psychic researcher Harry Price. Built in 1862 to house the rector of the parish of Borley and his family, it was badly damaged by fire in 1939 and demolished in 1944. That's it, the end. No, I'm joking. The large Gothic-style rectory in the village of Borley had been alleged to be haunted ever since it was built. These reports multiplied suddenly in 1929 after the Daily Mirror published an account of a visit by paranormal researcher Harry Price, who wrote 2 books supporting claims of paranormal activity. Price's reports prompted a formal study by the Society for Psychical Research, SPR, that's what we're referring to it now, which rejected most of the sightings as either imagined or fabricated and cast doubt on Price's credibility. His claims are now generally discredited by ghost historians. However, neither the SPR's report nor the most recent biography of Price has quelled public interest in these stories, and new books and television documentaries continue to satisfy public fascination with the rectory. A short programme commissioned by the BBC about the alleged manifestations, scheduled to be broadcast in September 1956, was cancelled owing to concerns about a possible legal action by Marianne Foyster, widow of the last rector to live in the house. In 1975, the BBC aired a programme entitled The Ghost Hunters that focused on Borley Rectory and conducted interviews with several psychic researchers, including Peter Underwood. It also featured a late-night psychic investigation of nearby Borley Church. Borley Rectory was constructed on Hall Road near Borley Church by the Reverend Henry Dawson Ellis Bull in 1862. He moved in a year after being named rector of the parish. The house replaced an earlier rectory on the site that had been destroyed by fire in 1841. It was eventually enlarged by the addition of a wing to house Bull's family of 14 children. Wowzers. The nearby church, the nave of which may date from the 12th century, serves a scattered rural community of 3 hamlets that make up the parish. There are several substantial farmhouses and the fragmentary remains of Borley Hall, once the seat of the Waldegrave family. Oh my goodness. Ghost hunters quote the legend of a Benedictine monastery supposedly built in the area in about 1362. According to which, a monk from the monastery conducted a relationship with a nun from a nearby convent. After their affair was discovered, the monk was executed, and the nun reportedly bricked up alive in the convent walls. Sheesh. It was confirmed in 1938 that this legend had no historical basis known and could have been fabricated by the rector's children to romanticise their Gothic-style red brick rectory. The story of the walling up of the nun may have come from Rider Haggard's novel Montezuma's Daughter, 1893, or Walter Scott's epic poem Marmion, 1808. So, the hauntings. The first paranormal events reportedly occurred in about 1863, since a few locals later remembered having heard unexplained footsteps within the house at about that time. On the 28th of July 1900, 4 daughters of the rector, Henry Dawson Ellis Ball, Jesus, that's a bloody name, saw what they thought was the ghost of a nun at twilight, about 40 yards from the house. They tried to talk to it, but it disappeared as they got closer. The local organist, Ernest Ambrose, later said that the family at the rectory were, quote, very convinced that they had seen an apparition on several occasions, unquote. End quote. I was going to say D quote. Various people claim to have witnessed a variety of puzzling incidents, such as a phantom coach driven by 2 headless horsemen during the next 4 decades. Now, this was really really interesting to me, because we had this legend. I don't know if it's like an urban legend that's known all around the UK or further or whatnot. I don't know if it is a widespread urban legend, but I definitely remember growing up, we had all the legends of, I'm sure there was something called Turnpike's Crescent or something like that, and it went off to an old inn, and we had the legend of the Headless Horseman, which was, when I've been researching these eyewitness, and I'm using air quotes there, these eyewitness accounts for the headless carriage, they seem to be exactly what we had kind of said when we were younger. So I wonder if that had have been linked. That's what I'm trying to say. I wonder if it was linked, if people were, the story was just had spread to where I grew up. So Ball died in 1892, and his son, the Reverend Harry Foister Ball, took over the living. On the 9th of June, it's the 10th of June today. On the 9th of June 1924, Harry Ball died and the rectory became vacant again. In the following year, on the 2nd day of October, the Reverend Guy Eric Smith and his wife moved into the house. Soon after moving in, Smith's wife, while cleaning out a cupboard, came across a brown paper package containing the skull of a young woman. Shortly after, the family reported a variety of incidents, including the sounds of servant bells ringing despite their being disconnected, lights appearing in windows, and unexplained footsteps. In addition, Smith's wife believed she saw a horse-drawn carriage at night. The Smiths contacted the Daily Mirror, asking to be put in touch with the Society for the SPR. On 10th of June 1929, which is my little boy's birthday, by the way, the newspaper sent a reporter who promptly wrote the first in a series of articles detailing the mystery of Borley. So, if you notice, up until now, there hasn't been too much going on. There's a few bits and pieces, but it's about to vamp up. So the papers have been called in, and this dude here, Harry Price, he has just been called in. He is the psychic researcher. So the papers come in, it's sort of fairly moderate activity. The papers come in, this Harry Price comes in, and this is where things start to really ramp up in the old haunting scale. So the paper also arranged for Harry Price, a paranormal researcher, to make his first visit to the house. He arrived on the 12th of June and immediately phenomena of a new kind appeared, such as the throwing of stones, a vase and other objects. Quote, spirit messages, unquote, were tapped out from the frame of a mirror. As soon as Price left, these ceased. Smith's wife later maintained that she already suspected Price, an expert conjurer, of falsifying the phenomena. The Smiths left Borley on the 14th of July 1929, and the parish had some difficulty in finding a replacement. The following year, the Reverend Lyle Algernon Foister, a first cousin of the Balls, and his wife Marianne moved into the rectory with their adopted daughter Adelaide. On the 16th of October 1930, Lionel Foister wrote an account of various strange incidents that occurred between the time that the Foisters moved in and October 1935, which was sent to Harry Price. Oh, here comes old Harry Price again. These included bell ringing, window shattering, throwing of stones, bottles, wall writing, and the locking of their daughter in a room with no key. Marianne Foister reported to her husband a whole range of poltergeist phenomena that included her being thrown from her bed. On one occasion, Adelaide was attacked by, quote, something horrible, unquote. Foister tried twice to conduct an exorcism, but his efforts were fruitless. In the middle of the first exorcism, he was struck in the shoulder by a fist-sized stone. Because of the publicity in the Daily Mirror, these incidents attracted the attention of several psychic researchers who, after investigation, were unanimous in suspecting that they were caused consciously or unconsciously by Marianne Foister. She later said that she felt that some of the incidents was caused by her husband in concert with one of the psychic researchers, but other events appeared to her to be genuine paranormal phenomena. She later admitted that she was having a sexual relationship with a lodger, Frank Peerless, and that she used paranormal explanations to cover up her liaisons. Now, I was confused, very, very confused by this. She later admitted that she was having a sexual relationship with a lodger, Frank, and that she used paranormal explanations to cover up her liaisons. Like, how? What? Why? When? Like, what does that even look like? How do you... Oh, sorry, the ghost made him put his penis inside me. Like, what I need to know those excuses. I need to know what she was telling her husband, that the paranormal events were, how they were interfering in this and making her have this sexual relationship with the lodger. I would love to have been a fly on the wall in that situation. The Foisters left Borley in October 1935 as a result of Lionel Foister's ill health. So then we go on to talk about the investigation into Price. So Borley remained vacant for some time after the Foisters' departure. In May 1937, Price took out a year-long rental agreement with Queen Anne's Bounty, the owners of the property. Through an advertisement in the Times on the 25th of May 1937 and subsequent personal interviews, Price recruited 48, quote, official observers, unquote, mostly students who spent periods, mainly during weekends, at the rectory with instructions to report any phenomena that occurred. In March 1938, Helen Glanville conducted a planchette seance, Streatham, South London. Price reported that she made contact with two spirits, the first of which was that of a young nun who identified herself as Marie Larry, Laire, Marie Larry. I don't know. According to the planchette story, Marie was a French nun who left her religious order and travelled to England to marry a member of the Walgrave family. Now, they were the owners of Borley's 17th century manor house, Borley Hall. She was said to have been murdered in an older building on the site of the rectory, and her body either buried in the cellar or thrown into a disused well. The wall writings were alleged to be her pleas for help. Marianne, please help me get out. The second spirit to be contacted identified himself as Sunex Amures, Sunex, space, surname is Amures, Sunex Amures, and claimed that he would set fire to the rectory at 9 o'clock that night, which was the 27th of March 1938. He also said that, at the time, the bones of a murdered person would be revealed. Now, this is really, really interesting because she was the daughter of an S.J. Glanville, who was actually one of Price's helpers. So you've got Price in his in Borley Rectory, and you've got the daughter of one of his helpers in London who is saying that evening, so the evening she was doing the seance, that evening at 9 o'clock at night, the house would be burnt down and these bones would be revealed. So on the 27th of February 1939, the new owner of the rectory, who was Captain W.H. Gregson, was unpacking boxes and accidentally knocked over an oil lamp in the hallway. The house was never connected to a gas or electricity supply, and water was obtained from a well in the courtyard. The fire quickly spread and the house was severely damaged. After investigating the cause of the blaze, the insurance company concluded that the fire seemed to have been started deliberately. A Miss Williams from nearby Borley Lodge said she saw the figure of the ghostly nun in the upstairs window and, according to Harry Price, demanded a fee of 1 guinea for her story. In August 1943, Price conducted a brief dig in the cellars of the ruined house and discovered 2 bones thought to be of a young woman. These bones were given a Christian burial in Liston churchyard after the parish of Borley refused to allow the ceremony to take place on account of the local opinion that the bones found were those of a pig. So you've got this guy, he goes digging. The daughter of one of his associates has said that bones are going to be found. He goes digging like a year or so later and finds these 2 bones, who everyone at the churchyard and even the minister or the rector, father, whatever, the minister of Borley Church had said that he would not bury them in the graveyard because they were not human, they were pig bones. They are buried in Liston churchyard, and if you actually Google Liston churchyard, you will see lots of people paying respects. You can see a picture of the actual ceremony taking place, and then you can see lots of other people that have gone and have paid their respects. They've paid their respects to these young woman or / pig. Now, when I was doing the research, it was quite blatantly obvious who believed the story and those who thought that good old Harry was a bit of a shyster, a little bit of a fabricator, because those that really believed the story were saying that they were of a girl. It was just a long time ago. They didn't have the knowledge. They didn't have, like, how would a normal run-of-the-mill local person be able to identify them as pig bones when they didn't have internet, they didn't have like TV, so they wouldn't have seen them in documentaries, that kind of thing. And then you have non-believers who were like, of course they were pig bones, like Harry's just been in and planted them because he wanted to give some credibility to the seance that had happened by his associate's daughter. So it is quite divided. The land of the rectory has now been divided up partially with a farm and 4 bungalows, probably built in the 1960s. I would love to know if there's been any activity in any of those bungalows. We may never know. After Price's death in 1948, the Daily Mail reporter Charles Sutton accused him of faking phenomena. Sutton claimed that whilst visiting the rectory with Price in 1929, he was hit on the head by a large pebble. Sutton stated that he seized Price and found his coat pockets filled with different sized stones. In 1948, Eric Dingwall, K.M. Goldney and Trevor H. Hall, 3 members of the SPR, 2 of whom had been Price's most loyal associates, investigated his claims about Borley. Their findings were published in a 1956 book, The Haunting of Borley Rectory, which concluded that Price had fraudulently produced some of the phenomena. The Borley Report, as the SPR study has become known, stated that many of the phenomena were either faked or due to natural causes such as rats, and the strange acoustics attributed to the odd shape of the house. In their conclusion, Dingwall, Goldney and Hall wrote, quote, when analysed, the evidence for haunting and poltergeist activity for each and every period appears to diminish in force and finally to vanish away, end quote. Terence Hines wrote that, quote, Mrs. Marianne Foyster, wife of the Reverend Lionel Foyster, who lived at the Rectory from 1930 to 1935, was actively engaged in fraudulently creating haunted phenomena. Price himself sorted the mine and faked several phenomena while he was at the Rectory, end quote. Marianne Foyster later in life admitted she had seen no apparitions and that the alleged ghostly noises were caused by the wind, friends she invited to the house, and in other cases by herself playing practical jokes on her husband. Many of the legends about the Rectory have been invented. The children of the Reverend Harry Ball, who lived in the house before Lionel Foyster, claimed to have seen nothing and were surprised they had been living in what was described as England's most haunted house. Robert Hastings was one of the few SPR researchers to defend Price. Price's literary executor Paul Tabori and Peter Underwood have also defended Price against the accusation of fraud. A similar approach was made by Ivan Banks in 1996. Michael Coleman, in an SPR report in 1997, wrote that Price's defenders were unable to rebut the criticisms convincingly. So there have been quite a few books, TV series, films, newspaper reports about this property. There are also, if you search here on YouTube, you will find like a lot. I really couldn't think of what to say there, but there are a lot of videos on YouTube. And obviously there's this whole Wikipedia page. On the Wikipedia page, you can click on on the links and names, and it takes you off, and you can spend hours and hours and hours, as I did, researching for this video. I have, in my research, I have used bits and pieces, different people's, not opinions, but what they've said, what they've written about, and I've tried to come off unbiased. But I don't know, it does seem that as soon as the media got involved with this, it seems like a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon, and these stories became more frequent, and they really ramped up in what was happening, and that to me makes it harder to believe. Now, I 100% believe in not so much ghosts, but I believe in the paranormal. I believe in energy and entities. But this was just hard for me to believe, I suppose, or to kind of follow along with, because as soon as this Harry Price dude gets involved, it seems like he just made a mockery of it. So whether there was actually any substance to the earlier claims before that douche got involved, or whether there were, after he got involved, whether there was any activity, but he was just heightening what was happening, like for dramatic effect, I am not quite sure. But I really, really enjoyed researching this, the Borley Manor, and I wish I had, the Borley Rectory, sorry. I wish I had known a bit more about it when I lived quite close to there. Well, I say close, it was like an hour or so away, because I would love to have gone and visited it. So those of you that don't know, now I live up in the northeast, so I live up in Durham in England, and I'm looking forward to next week doing the next week's video will be about somewhere more local to me, and I hope that I will get to go and visit that in the future. But for now, this is me. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I am so sorry that there was such a big gap, but I will be here every single Friday uploading this new series of press-ons and the paranormal, and I hope you will join me. Don't forget to check me out on social media, and I would love to know your thoughts. Until next time, speak to you soon.